What does 2026 look like for you?
Yeah, I'll be riding for the brand new team called Modern Adventure Pro Cycling, which is the team that George Hincapie is starting.
Oh, now we're
So
talking.
that's
Now we're
You're
talking.
on the
very
George Hincapie team. Oh, how cool. Okay.
All right, welcome back to Bespoke Endurance. Today's episode 27 of Recreational Rider to Racer podcast series, where Josh and I are racers, leveling up on the bike and in life in the midst of busy lives, work, and young families. Hit that subscribe button and follow us along on our journey. You will not be disappointed.
Okay. So, man, we are so pumped. We got a very special guest with us today. We got Scott McGill. He is a U.S. Continental Pro cyclist, known for his sprinting ability. He has been on several teams, and some of his top racing achievements include 2 stage wins in the 2022 Volta at Portugal, a stage win in the 2024 Tour de Gila, and a stage win in the 2024 Redlands Classic. He coaches other athletes and is one of the hosts on the cycling podcast, Bonk Bros. Scott, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yes, thank you. All right, so Scott, we want to, before we get into really diving into all the stuff that we have for you, we just want to do a very quick little, very fast answers, rapid fire, quick intro-y game, just to kind of get the ball rolling here. So first thing that comes to your mind, there's really no right or wrong answer. We'll let the listeners kind of determine that. So we're just going to rapid fire these, and then you don't even have to explain your answer or justify it. You just give an answer. Are you good with that?
Yeah, I usually don't like to justify my answers.
Oh, perfect. All right. Okay, here we go.
love it.
Shimano or SRAM?
SRAM?
Okay. Disc or rim brakes?
Disc?
Okay. True or false? All-rounder bikes are overrated. Either go all aero or weight weenie.
True.
Okay. True or false? Group rides make better racers.
True.
True or false? Wider tires are here to stay.
True.
Okay. True or false? Bikes today haven't evolved that much from bikes 10 years ago.
False.
True or false? People who ride on Zwift are wimps.
False.
Okay. Solo or group ride?
Solo.
Okay. Highest power output achieved in a sprint finish?
In a sprint finish. Probably like 1450, I would
Okay.
guess.
Wow.
You can only keep one, your power meter or your cycling computer.
Cycling computer.
Okay.
Well, the power meter is kind of useless without the computer, right?
That's true.
Fair enough. And then favorite current World Tour pro?
Vanderpool.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay. So a classics guy. I love it.
I love it. Okay, so well, we would love to just dive into a little bit of your background. We were talking a little bit before the podcast too. So you're an avid hunter, which I think is amazing, and you've shot a bear, which that is like that in terms of manhood. I mean, that it doesn't seem to get much higher than that. Like I think you've already achieved a level of manhood that just most men will never get to. But tell us your background, man. How did you get into cycling, racing? And when did you turn pro?
Yeah, I mean, I've been riding bikes. I would say my dad was a mountain biker. That's how I kind of got into it. He used to do 24-hour mountain bike races, or that used to be like more popular than it is now. Um, so we would go as a family, and then I was obviously surrounded by mountain bikers, because it's the whole weekend of mountain biking. So I started doing mountain bike races when I was probably 10 years old. And then, yeah, from that, one thing led to another. And then I started, doing more road races and kind of transitioned to doing that more frequently than mountain biking. still mountain bike today, but just don't really have the time or the, capacity to be, do too many mountain bike races. But yeah, and then as a junior U23 was never like, I would say super good or super talented. Just kind of stayed at it and eventually, progressed my way through the ranks a little bit to where I am now.
So how did you then decide between road and mountain, starting with mountain and then deciding, I think I kind of want to pursue a future in road, like, and kind of put this on the back burner?
I think I found like the head-to-head racing of road racing or even cyclocross more, appealing than mountain biking. Almost is more of just like a time. Like once you're kind of in your groove after the start of it, it's more just a time trial. There's less tactics involved. So maybe I was more drawn to the tactical side of road racing or crit racing. And then, eventually just kind of focused on one thing rather than dabbling in a lot of other stuff.
Do you have a preference between crit and road?
Road races, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, crit races are fun, but they're just like, I don't know. They don't take as much preparation or you can kind of, I mean, not that it doesn't take preparation, but I prefer a longer race too. Like they're not that they're easy. Nothing's easy, especially to win. A crit's especially hard to win, but they're just easier to ride. So yeah, I prefer, a harder race.
Okay. So like a true endurance minded person then, like the longer the race is going, the more you're getting excited.
Sure. I mean, too, within reason. But,
Okay.
Yeah.
I love it. So tell me about you. You mentioned you kind of worked your way through the ranks. Like, when did you? So starting out, because it sounds like you were pretty young, going from mountain biking and then transitioning to road racing. I mean, at what point did you get, where you're like, hey, I'm now jumping in from like going from even a Cat 3 down to like, where you're like, oh, now I'm a Cat 1, or now I'm just, already beyond that point.
Yeah, when I was probably like second year junior, first year U23 is when I kind of like focused, 100% of my energy into road cycling. Like my first year U23, I took a semester. Well, I didn't take a semester. I was going to college at Brevard College in North Carolina, and took a semester. Or was this the year before? No, I took a semester off my first year U23. Took a semester at the community college, and so I still was in school, but doing, it online, and lived in Belgium for like 5 months that year. Wasn't getting like a whole ton of support. Still had like, I had a team to race for or race with. And they got me a bike and everything. And then, yeah, just kind of went over there almost not alone. Like I stayed with a family, but I didn't have anybody, no Americans or like my parents or anything like that with me. So that was kind of where I think I developed the most, was that year, because I did like 65 races or something, because you could race almost every day within an hour drive from where I was living. So got a ton of experience there. And then from then I went back to school and joined a team in the US, and then kind of worked my way up through the ranks of the US circuit.
How much, 60 races, that's a lot. And so I'm just thinking, like, racing your way into fitness or more fitness, how much did you come off of those 60 races, come back to the States and just feel so much stronger? Or were you still like, oh, I have a way to go with progression here?
No, when I did races in the US that year, I feel like I was definitely a lot stronger, or just like I I wasn't being coached at all at that point either. Like I was not doing things right. That's for sure as far as training goes.
Oh, interesting.
So yeah, I would definitely race myself into fitness, because it was like that was the only thing. I mean, I was still training, just like doing like no plan, just random training, or doing whatever like my roommates were doing, that type of thing.
I love it.
Yeah. So just a lot of like, and if you race, it wasn't like I was doing like stage races either, where I was doing like a race 3 races a week or something like that. So it was spread out. So it was a lot of just like racing and recovering, and then like doing an easy ride the day before the race, and then doing the race, and then recovering, and then so there wasn't a lot of time to like do like a block of training, doing that like Kermesse style races. So I definitely think that like when I gained a lot in that year, even if I was kind of being an idiot. But,
what was your like weekly volume as far as total time on the bike looking like at this point?
I don't even know. Probably like 15 to 20 hours.
Okay.
Maybe less.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because the races weren't too long too. Those races are only like 100 to 120K, so like 2.5 hours. So you're not getting a ton of hours in the races. Where if you do a stage race now, the races could be 3 to 4 to even 5 hours.
So just out of curiosity, like as a pro now, like on average, how many races are you doing total in a year?
Like, well, I mean, the last couple years, 2024, had a pretty clean year, but this year I haven't raced since June, due to my iliac artery problem, and I had surgery 7 weeks ago. So now I'm back on the bike, but probably 50 to 6, like around that.
Okay.
60 to 70 races is a lot. Especially with like the amount of like in 2024, I did 5 plane rides to Europe, 5 trips to Europe. So that's a lot of travel to also add into the, where if you're living in Spain or something and to go to a race, all you have to do is take a 2-hour flight, max. That's pretty easy to, travel back and forth. So yeah, maybe like 50.
You mentioned your injury a second ago. What, you're back on the bike. How have you recovered the process? Do you feel like you're like getting fitness back, or is that, how have you been working through that?
Well, I've only been riding for I've probably done like 4 rides.
Okay.
5 rides since I was cleared, and it was basically 2 months off the bike. Cause I wasn't training full gas into the surgery just cause it was kind of hard to do that when you're going to have to take 6 weeks off. I was riding just like whenever I wanted to ride or had the time to ride. So everything with the surgery went super well. The surgeon was, gave me the all clear after 6 weeks, which was pretty quick recovery for a surgery like that. Cause it's a kind of a large incision in my abdomen. So for that, it healed up, well, and the artery looked good in the ultrasound and everything. So I'm good to go now, but it's going to take some time. If I rush back into it, it's going to be easy to pick up another injury, like a knee injury or something. Cause it's been so long since I've been training consistently. So it's going to take some, self-control to not go too crazy when I start feeling good, or like I could see it being, you start getting fitter and building power and you're like, all right, I'm going to go crazy with the training. And then I need to have self-control in the process to get back without having, take 3 steps and forward and 4 steps back.
Yeah. I feel like that's one of the hardest things with coming back. So it sounds like in a good way, you've got the right, like you're already prepping for what could happen, which is trying to stay ahead of that.
Oh yeah, but saying it now and actually doing it are 2 different things.
Is this why you find yourself hunting more?
Even if I know this, even if I know it for a fact, it's still gonna be hard to not, do an extra hour on a ride, or push a little harder on some rides, like just subconsciously almost. That's just kind of the nature of cyclists, is like you're going to try to push your body to the max, but now's not really the time to do that for me.
All right, before we go any further, we want to give a huge shout out to Road ID for not only supporting our podcast, but also letting us film right here at their headquarters. If you're a cyclist, runner, or just someone who wants peace of mind while out on the road, Road ID has you covered. Their medical IDs provide crucial info in case of an emergency, and they look great too. Do yourself a favor, check out roadid.com and grab one today. Big thanks to the team at Road ID for their support. Scott, you rocking a Road ID?
Not currently. I did have one at one point though.
Okay, good enough. You had one at one point.
I don't do well with like jewelry and watches and stuff. Like I can't remember. Yeah. So no,
Makes
but
sense.
That's all right.
I should. I really should.
This episode is also brought to you by our sponsor, Chris Carville, the bike lawyer. If you are injured in a bicycle accident, Chris is the guy to call. 20 years legal experience and tens of thousands of miles of training and racing. He's not just a legal pro, he's a cyclist who understands what it means to ride and the risks that come with it. Chris helped me out with my insurance claim when I had an accident back in 2020. He was great to work with and made the process smooth and took the burdens off of my shoulders. Representing both Ohio and Kentucky injured cyclists, whether you've been in a crash or just want to know your rights on the road, visit KentuckyBikeLawyer.com. What does 2026 look like for you?
Yeah. I'll be riding for the brand new team called Modern Adventure Pro Cycling, which is the team that George Hincapie is starting.
Oh, now we're talking.
So
Now we're talking.
You're on the
Very
George Hincapie team. Oh, how cool. Okay.
Yeah, so that's super exciting that it's like a brand new team, and it's gonna be a pro team level. So that's like the second division in cycling. So we'll have they're putting together the calendar now. Not sure exactly what races we're gonna do as a team, or like there's 20 riders, so everyone's calendar is gonna be different. But it's exciting that it's something like new and fresh, and we can almost create. The riders can almost create our own destiny, I guess, or like shape what this team will look like in the next 5+ years, hopefully.
Do you know how long is your contract or the initial contract for?
2 years.
Okay.
What will you be a sprinter on the team? Like do you know potentially what your role would look like just based on your past teams?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they haven't thought. Well, I'm sure they're thinking about it, but there's a lot of planning that needs to go before we start thinking about individual roles. But I'll definitely be a sprinter. They're pretty talented riders, so I'm sure I'll get a few chances. But I would like to kind of be a part of a lead out train also. I think that suits my skills well, like positioning in the bunch and just having that instinct, I guess. And yeah, to try to get as many wins or podiums as we can.
So how did they seek you out? Did you apply for this, or how did that kind of come to be?
Probably a series of Instagram messages and texts and yeah, I mean, I've known several people in the organization, so like that helped. And then I've also been racing with like a couple of the guys who are going to be directors for the last 5 years. So they know if you race with somebody, you really get to know their style. So like that might have helped them seek me out as a rider. So yeah, it was I think the planning has been almost a year in the making, I think. So yeah, they've been signing riders for the last, I think the team was full at the end of August. So they signed everyone pretty early.
I mean, I've seen some of the stuff from George mention it, but I haven't been able to find a whole lot of what his involvement's going to be as far as like day to day. Do you have an idea on that? Like what he and his brother are going to be?
Not really.
Okay.
No, I've had a few conversations, but we're doing a team camp at the beginning of December, so I'm sure a lot of these questions that you may have or I also have will be answered then. Like, we'll do meetings and get to know everybody in person. Like, you can only do so much over Zoom calls.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. Like, you're not going to like figure out which riders mesh well together and stuff like that, over the internet. We all have to kind of get together and do that in person.
Are you feeling relaxed? Do you feel like an added pressure, especially with coming off the injury? Or are you feeling pretty even keel about this?
No. I talked to them. There's no pressure to come back. They've actually probably encouraged me to come back slower just to kind of alleviate that risk of any kind of other injuries. And yeah, there's no pressure at all. Even the whole team, it sounds like there's no pressure for results. They're really focusing on building a good like core camaraderie and a good team environment versus chasing riders who can get results. Like a lot of the riders they chose, I think, were by design to kind of have that good environment, and then hopefully in the next few years use that to build on and achieve better and better results. So yeah, there's no obviously winning races is awesome and it's gonna create a good camaraderie when you win together, but it's not the focus for the first year at least.
Now, yeah. I read somewhere, but I just forget off the top of my head. Who are the like main like bike and equipment sponsors? Like, let's do bike and group and wheels. Who are
It's Factor Bikes. I believe all this is like public knowledge.
Yeah, I know. I just forgot. I forgot. Like,
if it isn't, we can just delete it.
Yeah, true. Yeah, it's true. You tell
Bikes.
us.
Yeah, SRAM, Black Ink wheels,
okay.
Ekoi helmets. Yeah, so some pretty good bikes. I think we'll have a really fast bike, which is awesome. That like always is good because then the first races or whatever, everyone, if you have a bad bike, it's always like an excuse, even though it might not be the bike. So when you start with a fast bike, it's like it just gives everyone confidence too. Like we have a competitive bike, so we can win races. It all, yeah. It's
okay.
Nice.
Okay, so I definitely want to follow up with this one because, like, between the two of us, I kind of always more nerd out on the bike tech stuff. And when we had Bassett on, I kind of asked him a similar question. He's like, they're all pretty like marginally close, and going to different teams. Do you ever get on a team where like, oh man, I'm on this thing, and then you get on a team where like, oh yes, now I'm going to get on that machine. I can't freaking wait. Like without, I mean, I know
honestly,
you can't bash sponsors. I get that. Like,
yeah, I would agree with Steve on that because I mean, there's certain aspects of every bike or team. Like a lot of it comes down to like saddles, shoes, pedals, stuff like that. Versus, and like sometimes I've heard stories of like teams like when SRAM started 12 speed, teams would be like, oh well, we have a 10-tooth cog, so we only need like a 48-tooth chainring. But that's not like one, the 10-tooth, you don't want to be in the 10-tooth all the time, and
right.
Two, that's just not like that's not feasible for winning races. You need a bigger chainring than a 48 on the road. So like it's like stuff like that. It could be team equipment management. Like, does the team have enough tires, or does the team supply enough? Do you are your mechanics good where your spare bike's set up properly? Stuff like that versus the actual like frame of the bike or the components of the bike. I think are all pretty marginal enough.
So have you gotten your equipment then, or is that when you go to the camp here in December?
Not yet. I think we'll get it all at the team camp because we got to do bike fits, and everything like that. So it's easier if everyone just goes to the same place, and then the mechanics can you can do the bike fit with the mechanic because that's also important. And they have all the spare handlebars, stems, stuff like that there. And then do it all at once and then come back. And it's also a brand new team. So the fact that you can even supply that many bikes is also, impressive because it's not easy.
Oh man, that's
build that many bikes, starting from fresh, from brand new. So
yeah. Well, man, that's exciting. That's we've heard obviously a lot about it, even just on the Lands podcast and the move and stuff where they've been talking. Hincappy's been talking about this team, and so it's exciting to be able to have yourself where you're like, hey, you're going to be on this team, and you'll get firsthand experience of all the dynamics of hopefully just an amazing. You guys will like what you're saying, where it's like just building that team, that camaraderie, and then continuing to build and build from there.
Okay, so we have a lot we want to cover with training at a high level, training at a level where for guys like Josh and I who don't have as much time to dedicate to training. So quick and then get right into that. Is that cool with you?
Yeah, sure.
All right.
Okay. I really want to jump into the topic of zone two with you. And there's so much popularity right now in terms of the 80-20 rule. Has become massively popular in the last recent years, where it's, that idea of 80% or 80% easy, 20% hard as a training rule. And I just want to know, as a professional cyclist, like, help us understand just from out of the gate, like, what do you think in general of kind of that 80-20 rule?
When this, I guess, became super popular, I did not I feel like I was already doing that even when I was like training like an idiot way back when. Like, naturally, I feel like I just would train most of the time in, zone 2 or below, even, zone 1. So yeah, I think it's it's not, I think it's a good rule, even getting closer to like 90% zone 2, 10%. And
Yeah, let me
yeah.
ask you this. I think that's great. I just was curious about that, especially coming from a world where it seems becoming more and more popular. You just hear people say 80-20 rule, and you're like, okay, is this truly, accurate, from that training standpoint, or is this more of like just the ideas there and people kind of gravitate towards it's easy to remember? So I like that. So that's an affirmation there. But let me ask you this, like, as a professional cyclist, like, tell me your thoughts on how you train in zone 2. Do you feel like zone 2 is overhyped, or do you feel like it's really, really important for training?
No, I definitely don't think it's overhyped. I think it's, as far as training zones, if I was gonna have to pick one, I would do only zone 2. Um, at least in my, training experience, I've found for me personally, my best, some of my best races have been from doing pretty large blocks of almost entirely zone 2 for, the training block before that event. Obviously, I still did sprints, because I think, every cyclist should always be practicing sprinting. Um, and then those 6 to 8 hour rides before some of my best races, like especially before Tour of Portugal in 2022. That's pretty much what I did in training wise. And then again when I did the World Championships that year, which was another, probably my best physical performance. That was my preparation, was almost entirely zone 2. But that always doesn't factor in what I did before that training block, like in the 6 to 8 weeks prior to the event. So obviously that factors in. But yeah, that was kind of my preparation.
So before you had mentioned being in Belgium, racing a lot, then coming back to the States and saying that you weren't being coached yet. Then you came over and joined a team. How did all of this play into with starting to add more of a coaching structure and kind of regiment to what you were doing versus
Yeah.
kind of what you alluded to in the beginning of the show?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, definitely just like more scheduling out your endurance rides versus like if you don't really have any kind of, whether you're coached or self-coached, if you don't have kind of a training plan and you're kind of going out every day, like I wouldn't even know how you would decide what to do every day, like what kind of training you're going to do, if you're going to do intervals or if you're going to do. So I found myself like I would probably go out and think I was going to do like all these intervals and then end up not feeling so good and then just doing like an endurance ride anyways, or vice versa. So it was just kind of like random training at that point, or just so having any kind of, whether you're doing it yourself or getting coached by somebody, having any form of training plan is going to be far better than um, just not having any kind of plan.
Yeah.
As in with most things in life. Yeah, obviously having a plan is good.
Yeah.
But yeah, then you it's more about kind of limiting yourself on the endurance days, the like scheduling in your zone 2 days. that's ride is for zone 2 only and not just doing like half-ass interval sessions every day.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of where a lot of people might get misled.
Yeah. How do pros like yourself actually define their zone 2?
Well,
Do
I
you
would
define
say
it by
zone
power?
2 and like a
Oh, I'm,
yeah, I would look at both power and heart rate. Yeah, both power and heart rate. Like especially if it's hot out, I'll pay attention to heart rate more. And once your heart rate starts to spike, like you really have to focus on dropping power, or you're not caring about how much your power drops. And then but obviously heart rate has like so many other factors that affect it. Where power is, power is power. Um, so like in times like when I start training after the off season, I'll pay attention to my heart rate more than power. And then once I get that kind of initial fatigue under my belt, then I might pay attention to power more often. But it's hard to get all worked up about your power, especially when it's like hot or to drop your power by a ton when your heart rate spikes. But that's what I think is the best thing to do, especially just to prevent like overtraining, because especially in the heat that can be pretty stressful on your body.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I was just curious about that too. I think it's often probably a real challenge for many folks to, when you're looking at your heart rate, to see, when you're spiking, because I saw that in the summer where it's like you're outside and it's like we've been on rides where we're doing zone 2 and it's like my heart rate's going way higher than what's my normal zone 2 here. And it's like, it is probably part of it is like, or at least for me, it's like that ego of like, oh man, I really should dial it back. And then you're like, I hate saying that, because then it's just like, oh, I might be out of my zone 2 and he's still in his zone 2. And so, but yeah, I could see that. But when you talk about training and training it, training well, I think that makes a lot of sense to just be able to check that and be like, hey, just reel it back in. Like this is a zone 2 ride.
And
So.
it also it's dependent on terrain too. Like around here where I live in Maryland, there's no flat roads at all, and there's no long climbs. So like it's all just rolling up and down. So if I was to try to ride at like a steady 200 watts or something, that would be nearly impossible, because you'd be like, especially if you're trying to ride on like back roads, where which all cyclists try to ride on back roads. It would like there's like just way too many like stop signs or like steep downhills and then steep climbs, and you're going to be going at like a snail's pace. So like you got to have to kind of be a victim of your terrain also at a certain point, and that's where heart rate might come in. Like I just don't want my heart rate to go over a certain X BPM, and that might be like my limiter for that ride.
Are you on the same thing for the descents? Are you trying to keep your heart rate from keeping it from falling too low on these quick descents that you're hitting?
I'm not too crazy about it.
Okay.
Like I'd rather err on the side of being a little like too low than too high. Like I don't want, it's just balancing that fatigue. But I'm also a full-time cyclist. So where the average person might only have an hour and a half to ride. So you kind of want to make the most of that hour and a half. Where if I'm doing like a 6 or 7 hour ride, you can't be so strict the whole time with that. And it's better to not, and I'm also kind of balancing that like overtraining all the time. Where somebody who's working a normal 9 to 5 might not necessarily be that close to being overtrained constantly.
With being full time, are you still at that 15 to 20 hour volume, or are you above that?
Probably on average, yeah. If I'm doing a training block, it's probably closer to 25 hours a week.
Yeah.
And then like the bigger weeks are like 30 plus.
Yeah. That's a
But
lot.
that's like kind of a rarity. Like a couple times a year, maybe I might hit 30 hours in a 7-day period. But yeah, probably 20 to 25 on average in the season. When I'm doing, when I'm training, and then go. But it's also just constant like battle of going to races, getting sick at races, coming home, you're sick. So it's really hard to find consistent training in the season. At least it has been for the schedule that I've had the last couple of years.
Yeah. I think that's really it's really great. I just want to like ask this because I think it's fascinating. I've heard a lot of people debate going by heart rate or power in zone 2, but would you say that it's generally true for most pros, anybody you know, including yourself? It sounds like you're saying, generally speaking, that you would say like, yeah, zone 2 is typically you're measuring both heart rate and power at the same time. And if heart rate drips too high, yeah.
Definitely. I mean, I would always keep an eye on both, just because you never know, like, what, if you have like some kind of anomaly or something, especially with your heart rate. But yeah, I would say definitely, both. Like, just especially in, like I said, especially in the hotter weather, keep an eye on your heart rate for sure.
I like that.
Because that could, like, especially if you're not heat adapted, going out and the first couple of super hot days in the summer, that could destroy you. That could just end your day. Like, I'll get home and I won't do anything for the rest of the day because I will just be totally destroyed.
Yeah. I had that this year. Going into we were doing some heat training, and I got sick. Greg was on a few rides with me, and I was throwing up after these rides. Not that it was just one of those things where I wasn't going crazy with him, and yeah, it was way overheated, and yeah, paid for it for sure. So I know exactly what that feels. It's the worst though. Yeah, it's just like, but I needed to be better about heat training for sure.
When you're doing these really long blocks, what as far as carb intake per hour, are you at 100? Are you above 100 on these long zone 2 rides?
I would say I probably start these, if I do a long endurance ride, I would start at around 100 grams an hour. And then, after 4 or 5 hours, it's kind of more just like whatever I can stomach or whatever I can, like, I'm not counting my grams of carbs after that amount of time, especially if I stop at like a gas station and like I'm not, I'm just getting whatever drink I want and trying to eat as much as possible, but it gets more and more difficult as you get deeper into a long ride. So yeah, I would say, obviously I would try to do as much as I can, almost.
Yeah.
As much as I can, like, stomach. Yeah.
Okay. I think that's really cool. I think that's interesting to think about in terms of just from your perspective, like you're trying to hit typically 100 grams per hour. Is this true on pretty much every ride that you're doing? Like, no matter if you're doing intensity, does that ramp up with intensity, or is that generally speaking, is that where you're trying to hit that benchmark of?
Probably pretty much all the time, just 100 grams an hour. But it also is dependent on just like, I mean, I think I should try to eat as much as I can more often. Not limit myself to just 100 grams an hour or whatever it ends up being.
So we had Stephen Bassett on a couple weeks ago, and he was saying that for him, he felt like he was kind of ahead of the curve of figuring out the high carb intake, where he was like, I was kind of doing that like a year or two before everyone really caught on. And he was like, then everybody caught up, and I was like, oh, dang, now everybody's doing this. Where were you at in that kind of bell curve?
I feel like, it's one of those things, like, you're not going to talk about it when it's not popular. So he might have thought that he was. He's one of my good friends.
Yeah.
I can say whatever I want. You're not going to talk about it when it's not cool.
Yeah.
But everyone was ahead of the game. You know what I mean?
I like that.
So I don't know. I would say just average. I guess.
He thinks he was ahead of the game. In fact, you're saying.
But everyone's secretly doing it at home by themselves, But like, and then everyone's like, "Oh, I was ahead of the game," and everyone was really just in the same game.
No, everyone was just really hungry. That's all it was.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone kind of gave up on the starving themselves at the same time.
In terms of like regarding zone 2, because obviously a lot of folks like us are in that boat where we only maybe have 6 to 10 hours of, a week where we can kind of allocate towards training. But, and I know you coach athletes, like how do you generally design, if you were to design a week on average, for 6 to 10 hours for athletes, how much of that is zone 2 in a week?
Are you like? Would you say like? Are you doing the 80-20 rule on days of intensity or time in zone? Because I've seen it both ways.
I was just gonna say, can you elaborate on both then? Because that's an interesting point that I hadn't given much thought
Like,
to.
yeah, I mean, to do, if you're going to do an 80-20 training plan, 80% zone 2, 20%, I guess, above zone 2 or intensity, that would be like very difficult to do more than 20% of your riding outside of zone 2. Just because you have to factor in warm up and cool down into that, like how much intensity can you really do, but then you could also get down into like 80% of my days are going to be zone 2 rides and 20% are going to have intensity in them. Which like is probably a lot more zone 2 days than people typically do. Cause that's, 80% would be a lot. Versus like time in zone, if that makes sense.
No, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I like that.
If I was going to schedule like a week of training, it would typically be like 2 days of intensity, 2 rest days, and then, at least try to get 1 longer endurance ride in, if not 2. And then the rest would be just like either shorter endurance days or just kind of like days riding, almost just days riding in between intensity days. If you have time, like if a normal 95 guy, like he can only do like 1 to 2 hours after work or before work or whatever. So don't do anything crazy in that. Like that's just kind of a day to just get out and ride. Because that's also important. It's just like if you structure every single, ride to be too focused, then you're never really gonna actually enjoy riding.
Right. Now, as people that you coach, as their racing calendar starts picking up, how much does that change from what you were just saying?
Yeah, I mean, this time of year it might be like more like 1 day of intensity or even none. And then as you get closer into like preparing for the race season, like going 2 days of intensity a week. And then depending on a lot of guys that I coach or that are normal athletes, day-to-day athletes, aren't doing too many events, so there's not that much like you're not really racing and recovering too much. You might have 4 to 5 major events and then might do like some local races and stuff in between. So yeah, it probably wouldn't change too much, like that kind of weekly spread of intensity and rest days and endurance runs.
Yeah.
But obviously the type of training you're doing is changing almost constantly.
Yeah.
But that kind of structure, and it helps people with jobs like structure out their week too, to plan, because obviously most people can do long rides on the weekends, and it's not like you're going to be able to do like a 4-hour ride if you get off work at 5.
Yeah.
So that dictates the structure of the training also.
Like, do you find that it's difficult for athletes, maybe everyday athletes like us, to be able to be like that structured with zone 2?
For sure. I mean, people definitely lean towards like going too hard on endurance rides versus not, versus going too easy. I don't think going too easy is too big of an issue. Like I would definitely try to lean more towards that side, but I see how that is very difficult for a lot of athletes, because you always, like I said, like cyclists or just an athlete in general, you want to push yourself, and you want to feel like you did something when that's like a lot of what I find in endurance sport is like I feel like I like went out and I accomplished something, or I did something. So like if you go out and putz around for an hour after, then that doesn't feel like you really were training. Well, it just feels like you were kind of just going for a walk almost.
It's fun too. I mean, it's so hard when you're on a bike. It's fun to go fast.
Yeah.
Like when I used to be a runner, and on days where I had to go easy, I'm not thinking, oh, I want to push fast now. I'm like, I'm fine with this. But riding, it's just like, oh, you go down a stretch and you're like, oh, I can just keep this going. Like, it's so hard to fight that temptation because it's just a fun sport.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I definitely find myself like when I start riding, like when I will start riding now, it's like just like every climb I come to, I find myself sprinting up it versus like, I mean, when I start after the off season versus like I'm in season, I guess I'm just like way more used to riding that steadier power throughout the ride. So like I could see how like somebody who rides, 7 to 10 hours a week or something just wants to like sprint up the hill because
Yeah.
it's fun.
Yep.
Like it's like sad, like how fast can I get to the top of this hill? But then once you're riding like 20 to 25 hours a week, I find that it becomes less cool to sprint to the top of the hill.
Okay. What we'd love to do now is jump into a little bit just more kind of fun questions. You can answer these as long or as short as you like. But I think it's just fun. We don't always get the opportunity to talk to someone at your level. And so would just love to hear your thoughts on this. So I'm gonna start off. Favorite pre-race meal as a pro?
Probably just some kind of rice, like with either sweet or savory. I wouldn't say it's like a good meal, but that's just it's easy.
Yeah, Stevens was the Dino Bites, and I love that. And I was like, I didn't. It sounded familiar, but
Yeah,
then it's the
that's the
cereal,
thing,
and I was like,
but-
I love that. That's
Yeah.
that's great. Okay, so rice. Okay, I like that.
Craziest or funniest moment ever in a race?
Craziest. There's been some crazy ones. I'd say like at a race in Portugal this spring, or was it last? No, it was this spring, 2025. We're coming into like it's a big bunch sprint in a town, tight, twisty run in or whatever, and I was found my teammate in the last kilometer, I guess, and then we were coming up the left side of the road, and we had way more speed than everyone else, and then all of a sudden we're riding through like 12 inches of standing water, and apparently there was like a water main break like 2 minutes before the race came, and they couldn't do anything about it. And I went from going like pretty fast to going not fast at all. But then the right side of the road was totally clear.
Oh.
So like the guys on the right just went like I don't want to say I was gonna win, but I definitely had like a decent shot at having a pretty good sprint, and coming like top 5 probably. And then I think the result was just totally ruined.
I'd be livid.
I'm sure there's been
like,
crazier than that, but
try-
we were pissed. We were pissed. Yeah.
I'm trying to imagine explaining that to a mechanic as they're just draining water out of your bottom bracket. Like, I swear there's a water main break.
Yeah.
Okay, that's pretty funny. All right, so if money were no object and you weren't a pro cyclist, what would you be doing?
Probably like we discussed before, probably just hunting more. I'd like to do more stuff like that. The bear hunt we did was cool because we did no idea. Like, you learn so much about a species by trying to, hunt it. So we didn't know what we were doing. So I do stuff like that, like go, travel and, do more cool hunts like that.
I love it.
Where I usually am just hunting like white-tailed deer, which is also great, but, do more expensive, adventurous hunts.
Are you talking like going to like different parts of, like Alaska, or are you talking like anywhere particular
exactly.
that you
like get way back into the backcountry, like you got to take a bush plane there or something like that.
That's cool.
Something different.
Yep.
If you had to start all over as a rider, so let's say Cat 4-5 rider, what would you focus on most to level up in racing?
I would race as much as I could. 'Cause you learn, especially when you don't know anything about racing, you learn so much, and there's only so much you can teach or hire somebody to teach you. So I would race as much as possible, and I would join a club with the most experienced riders, I would say, because then you're gonna be learning from those guys, in and out of the race.
Oh, I like that. Okay. What is the funniest or weirdest teammate you've ever had?
Weirdest. Some weird ones. There's some weird ones for sure.
Okay.
Definitely in America too, because it's just such like a niche sport that you got to be kind of weird to start doing it in the first place, right?
Maybe you're that guy. Maybe you're the
Funniest.
weird teammate on the team.
Yeah. I mean, I would definitely probably be one of the weirdest. Yeah, I would say myself. That's an option.
Do you have any
Or
quirks?
definitely
that people,
most like.
Yeah. Like guys like Steven or others that would be like, oh, Scott, like he's got this weird quirk. He always, like, is there anything that's ever been said about you?
Probably a lot, but I don't know.
Yep.
You're gonna have to ask them.
Fair enough. We'll do a follow-up.
Yeah.
Let's okay, so you've done quite a bit of racing in Europe. What's the strangest, I mean, US counts too as far as this question, but what's the strangest fan interaction you've ever had?
Oh, that one's easy. Once I crashed in a race in France, I think, and I skin suit up. My gels have exploded all over my skin suit. There's blood on it, whatnot, and I go out of the bus and I was like, I'm gonna try to sell this skin suit. So I just walked out of the bus, and within 10 seconds, I sold it for 50 euros. As is, dirty, yeah, covered in gel and blood and who knows what else.
That's amazing.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I
can't even sell like a brand new skin suit on eBay for $50 now.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay. I love that. 50 euros. Okay.
Yep.
Oh, man, that's amazing. Okay. So one of the other questions I want to ask you was, tell me about the importance of the mental side of racing. Do you have any mantras?
I don't know if I have any like mantras or tools, which I definitely should kind of work on that, or like that could be something that I could, make a performance gain with, for sure. But definitely just like having confidence in your strengths, is one thing. Like I never really, thought I was like more of a sprinter, but that's just kind of physiologically like who I am. So like if I would have figured that out earlier and kind of leaned into it a little bit more, I would have had, won more races or had more success. Where I was always trying to like win a race solo or something because it's like cooler and, it's, less like gambling on a sprint is, kind of risky, especially, but if that's what's gonna give me the best chance to win the most races, then that's like what I need to lean into more. But I could definitely like improve on the mental game or the, using different tools to improve that side of things.
Yeah. Oh, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I think that's very true for us as this is our first year of racing and just really trying to figure out like what are our strengths, and I think both of us, different things have highlighted out this year, which is interesting, but you're right. I mean, it is interesting to try and figure out like you just have to do more races to also understand that too, to really figure out like, man, this is okay. I think this is pretty true about me, Tell us a little bit about the Bonk Bros podcast.
Okay. I'm sure you've probably listened to it, but
yeah, you guys seem to be having fun.
We just talk about, we have like no plan, no agenda, nothing. We just talk about kind of whatever we want to talk about. It started basically like that, like with, I'm sure Dylan Johnson is, but like we went to college together and like we're roommates at one point, on and off. And we were just like, we should just record what we like talk shit about and then post it on the internet. And then that's pretty much what we do. Unfortunately, it is getting more professional as our listenership grows. So, we try to improve our like sound quality and stuff like that. But yeah, or we try, Well, it's a lot of talk about like gravel racing, which like isn't my favorite, but that's kind of the hype these days. So, um, yeah, a lot of that.
Okay, I love it. All right, and then now you're a coach. How can how long have you been coaching? And then also tell us a little bit about like how can people, if they're interested, how can people find you or potentially even get coached by you?
Yeah, I've been coaching for like 3 or 4 years now. Owen's one of the founders of a coaching company called Ignition Coach Co. So that's who I work for. And that's if you want to sign up for coaching with me or another coach. That's where you can find us I guess it's ignitioncoachco.com. Or you can just send me a message on Instagram or email or anything like that. But yeah, it's a coaching company based on the premise is that all the coaches are active, almost full time athletes, like or they've been a high level cyclist at one point in their life. So that's to become a high level cyclist, you make a lot of mistakes, and hopefully you learn from a lot of those mistakes. So then, if we can help to shorten the learning curve uh, for other athletes, then that can be extremely beneficial. So hiring a coach is one of those ways to kind of shorten that learning curve. Especially if you want to get if you want to be into racing, especially because all the coaches are either active racers or have been a high level racer at one point in their career.
Okay. All right. Well, man, we appreciate your time. Thank you for joining us. We would love to know what you guys think of this episode and anything that we might have missed. Please put it in the comments. Maybe we can portray that to Scott to get answered or have him riff on even more. But man, thank you for your time. Thanks for being willing to do this. I feel like there's a ton of great nuggets here. So we appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yes, thank you so much.
Awesome. Okay.